Michael Thompson, billionaire CEO, thought he had it all, until a little girl slipped a letter onto his napkin at Chicago's finest restaurant. "You're my dad. My grandma's dying. Find us at Englewood's shelter." The words hit like a thunderbolt, dragging up memories of Sarah, the love he left behind, meeting Emma, a 9-year-old with his eyes and a heartbreaking story. Michael's world of wealth and control crumbles. He takes her in but faces a brutal custody fight, cutthroat business demands, and a city quick to judge a rich man's heart. As Emma's drawings and nightmares reveal her pain, Michael must choose his empire or his daughter. Will he sacrifice everything for a chance to be the father she needs, or will the system tear them apart? Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Get ready for a story that'll grip your soul. Michael Thompson sat at a corner table in the Signature Room, Chicago's elite dining spot, his sharp eyes scanning the nervous smiles of the investment bankers across from him. At 47, the CEO of Thompson Industries had perfected the art of looking engaged, while his mind churned through profit margins and market shares. His tailored suit and steady hand on a glass of Bordeaux screamed control. Every move calculated, every risk weighed. The bankers droned on about a Los Angeles deal, but Michael's attention was elsewhere, orchestrating his empire in silence. A young girl, no older than 9, slipped through the bustling waitstaff, unnoticed by the room's high society crowd. Her worn sneakers and faded sweater clashed with the polished decor. She approached Michael's table, her small hands trembling as she placed a folded napkin beside his plate before darting away. Michael's brow furrowed. He excused himself mid-sentence, unfolding the napkin under the table's edge. Scrawled in careful, childish handwriting were words that stopped his breath. "You're my dad. My grandma's dying. We're at Englewood's shelter. Please come before it's too late." The room's chatter faded to a dull hum. Michael's fingers tightened around the note, his pulse quickening. Sarah. The name burned in his mind, dragging up memories he'd buried deep. Sarah, his college love, whose laughter once softened his edges. He'd walked away from her, choosing ambition over promises, convinced she'd moved on. But this letter, could it be true? A daughter? His hand slipped into his wallet, pulling out a creased photo he hadn't touched in years. Sarah's face smiled back, her eyes bright with a warmth he'd forgotten. Guilt twisted in his chest, sharp and unyielding. He glanced at the bankers, their eager pitches now irrelevant. "I need to step out," he said, voice clipped, ignoring their confused stares. The head waiter, catching sight of the girl as she fled, muttered under his breath about street kids sneaking into places they didn't belong. Michael shot him a look that silenced the room. "She was delivering something for me," he said, the lie coming easily. The waiter's sneer lingered, a reminder of the world's quick judgments. Rich or poor, you were sized up in seconds. Michael's Bentley purred through Chicago's streets, the city's gleaming skyline giving way to Englewood's gritty reality. The contrast hit hard. His world of penthouses and private jets against the crumbling brick of the shelter where Emma waited. He didn't know what he'd find, but the letter's plea echoed in his head. Please come before it's too late. Too late for what? Redemption? Truth? He gripped the steering wheel, the photo of Sarah still tucked in his pocket, its edges worn from years of being carried but never acknowledged. At the Englewood Community Shelter, a tired receptionist eyed him warily, her desk cluttered with overdue bills and flyers for free clinics. "You here for someone?" she asked, skepticism thick in her voice. Michael hesitated, the weight of the moment sinking in. "Emma," he said finally. "She left me a note." The woman's eyes narrowed, as if weighing whether a man like him, polished, powerful, could have any business in a place like this. "Wait here," she said, disappearing down a dim hallway. Michael stood in the shelter's cramped lobby, the faint smell of bleach and desperation clinging to the air. A bulletin board nearby listed job fairs and eviction notices, a stark reminder of lives teetering on the edge. He thought of Sarah, wondering how she'd ended up here, raising a child alone. The receptionist returned, her expression softer but guarded. "Emma's with her grandma. They've been through a lot. You sure you're who she says you are?" Michael's throat tightened. He wasn't sure of anything, not yet, but the letter, the photo, the pull in his gut They were enough to bring him here. "I need to see her," he said, his voice low but firm. The receptionist nodded, leading him toward a truth that would unravel everything he thought he knew about himself. The Englewood Community Shelter's hallway was narrow, its flickering lights casting shadows on peeling paint. Michael followed the receptionist, his polished shoes clicking against cracked linoleum, each step pulling him deeper into a world he'd never known. She stopped at a small room, gesturing inside. "Emma's there. Be gentle. She's been through hell." Michael nodded, his usual confidence replaced by a knot of uncertainty. He wasn't ready for this, but the note in his pocket demanded he face it. Inside, a frail woman lay in a hospital bed, her breathing shallow. Beside her sat a girl, small for 9, with blonde hair tied in a loose braid. Emma. Her eyes a piercing blue locked onto Michael's, his own eyes staring back. His breath caught. She clutched the woman's hand, her small fingers trembling. A faded blanket lay across her lap, and on her wrist a star-shaped birthmark mirrored the one Michael hid under his watch. Proof, undeniable, that she was his. "Eva?" he said softly, his voice foreign in the quiet room. She looked up, wary but curious, studying him like a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. The woman in the bed, Ellen, her grandmother, stirred faintly, her eyes fluttering open. "You came," she whispered, her voice brittle but warm. "Sarah said you might." Michael knelt beside the bed, his tailored suit out of place against the room's stark simplicity. "Sarah," he said, the name heavy. "She never told me." Ellen's gaze softened, tinged with regret. "She didn't want to burden you. You were building something big. She loved you enough to let you go." Emma's grip on Ellen's hand tightened, her face a mask of grief and resolve. "Mom's gone," she said, her voice steady despite the pain. "You got sick? Grandma's all I have left." Michael's chest ached, guilt and loss colliding. Sarah gone, and this child, his child, left to face the world alone. He wanted to ask why Sarah kept it secret, why she let him live in ignorance, but the answers wouldn't change the truth standing before him. "I'm here now," he said, the words feeling inadequate. Emma's eyes searched his, looking for a promise she'd learned not to trust. Ellen coughed weakly, her hand reaching for Emma's cheek. "Be strong, my girl," she said, "like your mom taught you." Emma nodded, tears spilling over as she pressed her face to Ellen's palm. "I promise, Grandma." Michael watched, an outsider to their bond, his heart breaking for the loneliness in Emma's small frame. He saw Sarah in her, the same quiet strength, the same fierce love. The receptionist lingered in the doorway, her expression skeptical. "Mr. Thompson, we need to discuss legalities. Emma's situation is complicated." Michael stood, his mind racing. "What's complicated?" he asked, sharper than intended. She crossed her arms. "You show up out of nowhere, claiming to be her father. We've seen rich folks come through, looking for a feel-good story to polish their image. How do we know you're not one of them?" The accusation stung, but Michael saw the truth in her doubt. His world of wealth and power didn't translate here, where survival was measured in small acts of care. "I didn't know about her until tonight," he said, his voice low. "But I'm not leaving her here." The receptionist raised an eyebrow. "You think you can just take her? There are protocols, background checks." "I'll handle them," Michael cut in, his CEO instincts kicking in. "But she's not staying in a shelter another night." Emma looked up, startled, her eyes flickering with hope and fear. Ellen's hand squeezed hers one last time, a silent blessing, before her strength gave out. Emma's sob broke the silence, raw and piercing. Michael knelt again, helpless, as she clung to her grandmother, whispering goodbyes. When the moment passed, Emma wiped her eyes, her small body trembling but resolute. "Can I really go with you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael nodded, his decision made before he fully understood it. "Yes, you're coming home with me." The word home felt strange but right. The receptionist sighed, handing him a stack of forms. "This isn't how it works, but I'll start the process. Don't make me regret this." As they left the shelter, Emma clutched a small backpack, her only possessions. Michael's Bentley waited outside, a symbol of the chasm between their worlds. He opened the door for her, catching the receptionist's parting words, "Prove you're more than your money, Mr. Thompson." The challenge lingered as he drove toward his Streeterville penthouse, Emma silent beside him, her star-shaped birthmark a quiet reminder of the bond he couldn't ignore. Michael Thompson's Streeterville penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel, every surface polished to perfection. But with Emma inside, clutching her worn teddy bear, it felt like a museum. Cold, vast, and unfit for a 9-year-old. Her small figure seemed swallowed by the sleek leather couches and abstract art costing more than most homes. Michael watched her from the kitchen, unsure how to bridge the gap between his world and hers. He'd built an empire on precision, but fatherhood was a puzzle with no blueprint. Emma sat cross-legged on the living room floor, her backpack open, carefully arranging a few possessions: a hairbrush, a dog-eared book, and a photo of her mother, Sarah. She glanced at Michael, then quickly looked away, as if afraid to take up space. "You can put your things anywhere," he said, his voice too formal. She nodded, but kept her bear close, its missing eye a reminder of the life she'd left behind. The first night, Michael stared at his refrigerator, stocked with artisanal cheeses and wine, but nothing a child might eat. "What do you like for dinner?" he asked, scrolling delivery apps on his phone. Emma shrugged, her voice soft. "Anything's fine." He ordered pizza, guessing at her tastes, and they ate in silence at a dining table meant for boardroom deals. Her careful bites and folded napkins spoke of lessons Sarah must have taught her. Manners over money. Michael's chest tightened, realizing how little he knew about the woman who'd raised his daughter alone. At the Latin School of Chicago, where Michael enrolled Emma, she faced a different kind of challenge. Her navy blazer and pleated skirt matched her classmates, but whispers followed her. "She's from that shelter," a girl sneered during recess, loud enough for Emma to hear. "Bet she's here on charity." Emma clutched her lunch tray, eyes down, the sting of their words cutting deeper than hunger ever had. She didn't tell Michael, but he noticed her quietness at pickup, her backpack heavier with unspoken hurt. Michael's days were split between learning to be a father and fending off work pressures. The Los Angeles acquisition loomed, with his board demanding his presence for negotiations. "You can't run this from Chicago," his CFO barked over a call. "We need you there, Michael." He rubbed his temples, glancing at Emma's closed bedroom door. A gala invitation arrived. Chicago's elite, raising funds for urban schools, a chance to network. "You could come," he suggested to Emma, hoping to include her. She shook her head, eyes hard. "I don't belong with those people. They'll look at me like I'm less." Her words hit like a slap, exposing the class divide Michael had never questioned. One evening, desperate to connect, Michael found a children's book on his shelf, a relic from a corporate gift basket. "Want me to read?" he asked, awkward but earnest. Emma hesitated, then nodded, curling up on her guest room's oversized bed. His deep voice stumbled over The Velveteen Rabbit, but when he reached the part about becoming real through love, Emma's lips curved into a small smile, her first since arriving. For a moment, the penthouse felt less empty. "Mom used to read that," she whispered, eyes shining. Michael's throat closed, wishing he'd known Sarah's stories, her strength. The next day, Emma slipped a drawing under his office door, a sketch of Sarah, her face framed by flowers, vibrant despite the pencil's simplicity. "It's for you," she said, shyly, lingering in the doorway. Michael, distracted by a Los Angeles email, set it on his desk. Hours later, rushing to a call, he knocked it to the floor, the paper crumpling under his shoe. Emma saw, her face falling before she turned away. "It's nothing," she mumbled, retreating to her room. Michael cursed himself, picking up the drawing, its delicate lines now marred. He'd meant to frame it, to show her it mattered, but his carelessness had built a wall instead. That night, lying awake, Michael wrestled with his choices. Emma needed him. Her silence, her guarded glances screamed it. But Los Angeles called, his empire's future at stake. He thought of Sarah, raising Emma in poverty while he amassed wealth, never knowing the cost of his ambition. The gala, the board, the sneers at Emma's school, they all exposed a truth he'd ignored. His money couldn't shield her from a world that judged her worth by her past. He wanted to be the father she deserved, but every step felt like a misstep, and the weight of her trust, so fragile, pressed harder than any deal he'd ever closed. Michael Thompson's carefully ordered world began to unravel as the Chicago Tribune splashed his face across its front page. Billionaire's secret daughter, a publicity stunt? The article dissected his life, painting him as a detached tycoon unfit for fatherhood. At the Latin School of Chicago, Emma faced crueler whispers. "Your dad's just buying you," a classmate taunted, her words slicing through Emma's fragile confidence. Michael clenched his jaw, powerless against the media storm and the prejudice that branded his wealth as a liability. He wanted to shield Emma, but the world seemed determined to judge them both. The storm intensified when James, Sarah's estranged brother, appeared at Michael's penthouse, flanked by a lawyer. James, a middle-aged man with a practiced smile and a suburban home, claimed he was Emma's rightful guardian. "You're a CEO, not a father," he said, his tone laced with disdain. "Emma needs stability, not a penthouse and a private jet. My wife and I can give her a real family." Michael's blood boiled, but James's words echoed his own fear. His life was a whirlwind of boardrooms and deals. Could he truly be what Emma needed? James's custody filing hit like a gut punch, backed by a narrative that played to society's biases. A traditional family trumped a billionaire's fleeting interest. The social worker assigned to Emma's case, Ms. Rivera, met Michael with skepticism. "Children need emotional presence, Mr. Thompson," she said, her notepad filled with observations. "Your Los Angeles deal suggests your priorities lie elsewhere." Michael bristled at sensing the unspoken assumption, rich men don't raise kids. They hire nannies. The system seemed rigged, favoring James's modest life over Michael's efforts, dismissing his growing bond with Emma as a rich man's whim. Determined to prove them wrong, Michael cleared his schedule for Emma's art exhibition at Latin School. The gymnasium buzzed with parents and students, but Emma stood alone by her painting, a lighthouse on a stormy cliff, its beam cutting through darkness. "It's hope," she'd told her teacher, her voice soft but firm. Michael's heart swelled as he studied the canvas, seeing Sarah's talent and Emma's resilience. He caught her eye, offering a thumbs up. For the first time, her smile reached her eyes, a fleeting connection that made the room feel smaller, warmer. That night, a piercing cry shattered Michael's sleep. He rushed to Emma's room, finding her thrashing in bed, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, don't leave me," she sobbed, caught in a nightmare. Michael sat beside her, his hand awkward but steady on her shoulder. "It's okay, Emma, I'm here," he whispered, his voice cracking. She clung to him, her small body shaking, and he stayed, ignoring the buzzing of his phone, a critical Los Angeles call. Configuration file /etc/host. Michael held Emma until her breathing steadied, the missed call forgotten. The moment felt like a vow, but the weight of his choice lingered. He was choosing her, but would the world see it? The custody battle loomed, and the courtroom's sterile air amplified Michael's unease. James's lawyer leaned hard on stereotypes, portraying Michael as a workaholic with no parenting skills. "Mr. Thompson's wealth can't buy emotional stability," he argued. "James offers a proven family environment." The judge's neutral expression gave nothing away. But Michael felt the bias. James's normal life was a safer bet than his high-profile chaos. Mrs. Rivera testified, noting Emma's adjustment struggles, her guarded nature. "She's bonding with Mr. Thompson, but his travel plans raise concerns," she said, her words a knife to Michael's hopes. Michael fought back, detailing his changes, canceled trips, bedtime stories, the art show. But the courtroom's lens was narrow, blind to the quiet moments, like when Emma's hand slipped into his at the exhibition, or the lighthouse painting that now hung in his office. The system valued structure over love, and Michael's wealth, once his shield, now painted him as detached. "I'm learning," he told the judge, voice raw. "She's teaching me." Outside, Emma waited, her eyes searching his. "Are they taking me away?" she asked, her voice small. Michael knelt, forcing a smile. "Not if I can help it," he said, but doubt gnawed at him. The Los Angeles deal still loomed, and the board's patience was thinning. Society saw his money, not his heart, and Emma's future hung in the balance. Could he rewrite their story, or would prejudice tear them apart? Michael Thompson stood in his penthouse office, the Chicago skyline a silent witness to the storm within him. His phone buzzed relentlessly, board members demanding his presence in Los Angeles to seal the acquisition that would define Thompson Industries' legacy. "Be there by tomorrow or you're out," the chairman's email read, blunt and final. Simultaneously, the custody hearing for Emma loomed. Each tick of the clock tightening the vice around Michael's heart. Lose his CEO title or lose his daughter. The choice was no longer abstract. It was a blade, sharp and unforgiving. He paced, eyes falling on Emma's lighthouse painting, now framed on his desk. Its glowing beam seemed to mock his indecision. Michael had built his life on control, but Emma had rewritten the rules. Her nightmares, her shy smiles, her quiet courage. They demanded more than his wealth. They demanded him. He dialed his assistant, Lisa. "Your acting CEO," he said, voice steadied despite the weight. "I'm staying in Chicago for Emma." Lisa paused, then replied, "I've got this, Michael. Go be her dad." Hanging up, he felt a strange relief, like shedding a skin that no longer fit. The courtroom was a crucible, its stark walls amplifying every word. James's lawyer hammered Michael's inexperience, his high-flying lifestyle. "A penthouse isn't a home," he sneered. "James offers Emma a stable, loving family." The judge's pen scratched notes, her face unreadable. Michael's attorney countered with evidence of his transformation. Canceled trips, school visits, the art show, but the room felt tilted. Society's bias against wealth casting Michael as a dilettante playing at parenthood. Ms. Rivera, the social worker, acknowledged his efforts but flagged his demanding career as a risk. Michael's jaw tightened, the unfairness searing, his love for Emma reduced to a footnote. When his turn came, Michael abandoned his prepared notes. He stood, facing the judge, his voice raw but resolute. "I didn't know Emma existed until she found me. I've made mistakes, chasing deals, building walls, thinking money was enough. But she's changed me. I've learned to read bedtime stories, to listen when she's scared, to show up when she needs me. I'm not perfect, but I'm hers." He glanced at Emma, seated with her advocate, her blue eyes wide. "I choose her every day over everything else." The room stilled, but the judge's expression remained guarded. Then, unexpected, Emma's small voice broke the silence. She stood, clutching her teddy bear, addressing the court. "I want to stay with Michael," she said, her words clear despite her trembling. "He stays up when I have bad dreams. He keeps my drawings. Mom said he'd care if he knew me, and he does." Tears pricked Michael's eyes, her trust a lifeline in the sterile room. The judge raised an eyebrow, scribbling furiously, as James's lawyer faltered. That evening, back at the penthouse, Emma slipped into Michael's office, holding a folded paper. "I made this," she said, hesitant. He opened it to find a colored pencil drawing. Him, Emma, and Sarah, standing under a tree, hands linked. Sarah's face glowed with flowers, a tribute to her memory. "It's us," Emma whispered. Michael's throat closed. He crossed the room, hanging the drawing beside the lighthouse painting, its vibrant colors softening the office's cold edges. "It's perfect," he said, kneeling to meet her gaze. Emma's smile, small but real, was worth every boardroom battle. The board's reaction was swift and brutal. "You're prioritizing personal matters over the company," the chairman snapped in a late-night call. "This isn't the Michael we backed." The criticism stung, exposing a corporate culture that valued profit over people. Michael saw it clearly now. His old life had no room for pancake mornings or school art shows. "Then back someone else," he replied, calm but firm. "Not that Michael anymore." The call ended, leaving him staring at Emma's drawing, its simple lines a testament to what he'd gained. Emma curled up on the couch, watching him. "Are you in trouble because of me?" she asked, her voice small. Michael sat beside her, choosing his words carefully. "Not trouble, just a new path. You're worth it." She leaned into him, her warmth grounding him. The custody fight wasn't over, and the board's ultimatum lingered, but in that moment Michael knew he'd made the right choice. Society might judge his wealth, his past, but Emma's hand in his was a truth no courtroom or boardroom could deny. The courtroom's gavel fell with a muted thud, sealing Michael Thompson's fate in a single sentence. The judge granted him temporary custody of Emma, but with a caveat: prove stability within 6 months, or the case would be reopened. The victory was fragile, a tightrope stretched over an uncertain future. Michael met Emma's eyes across the room, a small hand clutching her teddy bear. Her nod, barely perceptible, carried a trust that both anchored and terrified him. James and his lawyer left in silence, their challenge unanswered but not extinguished. Back at the penthouse, Michael faced a reckoning. The board's ultimatum echoed: return to Los Angeles or lose everything. He chose neither, drafting a letter instead. "I'm stepping down as CEO," he wrote, naming Lisa as his successor and himself as a part-time consultant. The decision severed ties to the empire he'd built, but as he glanced at Emma's family drawing on his desk, he felt no regret. Power had defined him once. Now, Emma did. He sold the Streeterville penthouse, its sterile luxury no place for a child's laughter. They moved to a modest house in Evanston, steps from Lovelace Park's sprawling green. The cozy porch and creaky floors felt foreign, but right, a canvas for memories yet to be made. Emma's room, painted soft yellow at her request, held her lighthouse painting and Sarah's photo, a shrine to love and loss. Michael watched her unpack, her teddy bear claiming pride of place, and saw a spark of belonging in her eyes. One afternoon they knelt in the backyard, soil staining their hands as they planted a rose bush to honor Sarah. Emma's small fingers pressed dirt around the roots, her face serious. "Mom loved roses," she said. "She said they're tough, like people can be." Michael's throat tightened, picturing Sarah's resilience, her quiet faith in him. "She was right," he said, his voice low. Emma looked up, hesitant, then spoke. "She said you'd be a good dad, if you got the chance." The words pierced him, a gift and a burden. He blinked back tears, nodding. "I'm trying, kid." As they finished, Emma dusted her hands and turned to him, her blue eyes steady. "Dad," she said, the words slipping out soft but sure. Michael froze, his heart stuttering. It was the first time she'd called him that, and the weight of it, love, trust, responsibility, brought tears he couldn't hide. He pulled her into a hug, her small frame warm against him. "I'm here, Emma," he whispered, a promise etched in every syllable. That evening, Michael sat at the kitchen table, pen in hand, writing a letter to Sarah. "I didn't deserve her, but you knew I'd try," he wrote. "I'll keep her safe, make her laugh, help her grow. Thank you for giving me this chance." He folded the paper, tucking it into a drawer, a private vow to the woman who'd shaped their daughter's heart. The move to Evanston came at a cost. Chicago's elite, once his allies, turned cold, their invitations drying up. "You've gone soft," a former colleague sneered at a charity event Michael attended alone, Emma too shy to face the crowd. The rejection stung, but it paled against the clarity of his new life. Society's upper crust valued status over substance, but in Evanston's simplicity, neighbors sharing coffee, kids biking past, he found meaning. The world saw his fall from power as failure. Michael saw it as freedom. As the sun dipped low, Michael and Emma sat on the porch's swing, its gentle creak a soothing rhythm. The horizon burned orange, casting a warm glow over the park. "Do you miss the big house?" Emma asked, her voice curious but unguarded. Michael considered, then shook his head. "Not as much as I thought. This feels real." She leaned against him, her hair catching the light. "I miss Mom," she said softly, "but I'm glad you're here." "I'm glad too," he replied, his hand finding hers. The future was uncertain. Court reviews, James's lingering claim, his diminished role at Thompson Industries. But as the swing rocked and Emma's breathing slowed, Michael felt a quiet hope. He traded towers of glass for a rose bush and a porch, wealth for love. The world might never understand, but Emma did, and that was enough. They faced the sunset together, not knowing what lay ahead, only that they'd meet it side by side. Michael's story hits hard because it asks what really matters: success or love? I believe his choice to trade power for Emma was brave, a middle finger to a world obsessed with status. Society often punishes those who step off the treadmill, labeling them weak, but Michael found strength in sacrifice. Yet, I wonder if he could have balanced both, kept his empire and still been Emma's dad. Maybe the system forced an unfair choice, reflecting how we undervalue family in a cutthroat culture. What do you think? Was Michael right to walk away, or should he have fought for both worlds? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. Thanks for watching and joining this journey. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more tales that spark your heart and mind. Let's keep the conversation going.